If your soil feels hard, dry, or lifeless, it's not a problem of nutrients. You can pour in compost, fertilizers, or amendments, and it might look better for a while, but underneath, nothing really changes. Imagine holding a handful of soil in your hand. One scoop is dark, crumbly, full of tiny tunnels. Another is pale, dense, almost lifeless. That difference isn't magic, it's biology. Beneath the surface, a complex system controls everything, and when it's inactive, the soil behaves like dirt instead of a living, breathing network. Picture this. Water hits the surface, and instead of soaking in, it runs off, leaving the top layer cracked and dry. Roots grow shallow because the deeper soil is impenetrable. That's a sign that the underground system that should be sustaining life isn't active. And no matter how much compost you add, the effect is temporary. The solution isn't what you put on top, it's how you activate what's already below. Here's the secret most people miss. Worms aren't just passengers in the soil. They are the engines that transform dirt into living soil. But they don't move in because of nutrients. They move in because the conditions below ground are right. They need moisture, shelter, and a microbial food source that grows slowly over time. If any of those conditions are missing, worms vanish, and soil remains lifeless. Now, imagine creating a zone underground that ticks all these boxes. Soft, carbon-rich material that holds moisture and feeds microbes slowly becomes a magnet. Worms sense it, microbes bloom, and the system begins to replicate itself outward. This isn't a temporary effect. Once worms arrive, they tunnel, reproduce, and gradually spread biological activity throughout the soil. You're not just attracting worms, you're building a self-sustaining underground network. Visualize placing a piece of soaked cardboard flat in the soil, a couple inches deep. It's not the cardboard itself the worms are after. It's the microbial life it generates. Within hours, bacteria and fungi colonize it, producing chemical signals that worms detect. Within days, worms arrive. Within weeks, tunnels radiate out, soil darkens, loosens, and moisture retention improves. The system amplifies itself naturally. Moisture is critical. Dry material does nothing. Fully wet material becomes biologically active almost immediately. If you inoculate it with a bit of finished compost or worm castings before burial, the effect accelerates. You're giving the system a jump start. Think of it like priming a pump. The underground network wakes up and continues to operate on its own. As worms feed, they leave castings that are nutrient-rich, biologically active, and bind soil particles together. They also lay cocoons, each of which can produce multiple offspring if conditions remain steady. This is how a single buried zone transforms into a population hub. Over time, as worms expand outward, the soil profile becomes threaded with tunnels, and the structure and life of the soil improve beyond the original zone. Imagine walking on soil that was once hard and compacted and feeling it springy and alive beneath your feet. That's what happens when worms and microbes rebuild the soil from below. Water infiltrates evenly. Roots find paths downward. Soil holds moisture and nutrients naturally. And all of this begins from a simple, buried source that anyone can implement. Mistakes can stop this process cold. Too deep and oxygen drops, slowing decomposition. Too shallow or exposed, and moisture fluctuates, discouraging worms. Oily, salty, or chemically contaminated waste repels them. Tilling destroys tunnels and cocoons before the new generation has a chance to mature. To succeed, you create the right conditions and then let the system do the work. Minimal disturbance after burial maximizes results. Repeat this process every few weeks, placing new buried zones in slightly different locations. Each new zone adds threads to the underground network. Over time, the soil develops a connected web of biological activity, creating self-sustaining living soil that maintains itself year-round. Surface conditions amplify success. A protective mulch layer stabilizes temperature, retains moisture, and allows worms to travel safely between zones. Bare soil dries out, forcing worms deeper or discouraging reproduction entirely. Mulch converts buried organic material into a permanent highway for worms and microbes alike, maintaining activity even during hot or dry periods. This isn't theory, this is observable. Compost alone changes chemistry, but buried feeding activates life and builds structure. The combination of moisture, microbes, and worms rebuilds soil from the ground up. The transformation is measurable: darker, looser soil, tunnels radiating from buried zones, improved water infiltration, increased microbial diversity, and it continues to expand naturally, feeding itself without further inputs. Consider this. One zone buried today, left undisturbed, can become the foundation for ongoing soil improvement. 2 or 3 zones placed strategically over a season turn isolated pockets into a continuous network. Each buried zone feeds worms and microbes over months, and as they spread, the soil profile gradually becomes living soil again. The effect is cumulative and self-reinforcing, and it works everywhere. From city rooftop plots to urban green spaces, community growing beds, or neglected compacted soil anywhere, this principle applies. It doesn't matter what's growing above it or whether plants are present. The biology activates, worms multiply, and the soil itself regenerates. Life is always waiting to respond if the conditions are right. The lesson is simple. Living soil is built from the bottom up. You don't feed it from above and hope for the best. You activate the underground network that sustains structure, moisture, nutrient cycling, and reproduction. Worms are essential. They are the machinery. But microbes are the trigger, moisture is the medium, and stable shelter is the environment. Together, they turn inert dirt into self-sustaining soil. Imagine for a moment the difference this makes. Soil that retains water naturally, soil that resists compaction, soil that feeds plants consistently instead of spiking nutrients in a single flush. Roots follow the tunnels, moisture spreads evenly, microbial life thrives, and fertility becomes a living, dynamic property of the soil itself. This is not something fertilizer alone can achieve. This is biology in action, and it begins with a simple buried zone. Even the simplest implementation works. A soaked piece of cardboard, a small trench, and a little attention to moisture and inoculation can start a chain reaction. Repeating it across the soil amplifies the effect. Within weeks, the soil begins to feel alive. Within months, the difference is unmistakable. Compact dirt becomes dark, crumbly, porous, and resilient. Life below the surface drives everything above it. Now, here's the critical insight most people miss. This method works faster than top dressing because it bypasses the waiting period. Worms don't just consume surface amendments, they reproduce, spread, and structure the soil exactly where it's needed. Microbes colonize the buried material and produce signals that draw more worms. The system builds itself outward, continuously improving the soil profile. Nutrient cycling, water retention, and structure develop simultaneously. The final takeaway is this: soil can regenerate itself if you know how to activate the underground processes. Bury the right organic material at the right depth. Ensure consistent moisture. Inoculate if possible. Cover lightly and minimize disturbance. Life responds. Worms tunnel, reproduce, and restore soil from below. Microbes flourish. Soil transforms. And with repeated applications, you create a self-sustaining, biologically active system. The difference is visible, measurable, and repeatable, and it doesn't require buying worms, expensive products, or waiting years. Living soil is not applied, it is activated. The mechanics are simple, the results are profound, and the method works in any context where soil biology has been suppressed. Once this process is implemented, soil begins to function as a dynamic, self-maintaining system. What was once lifeless becomes alive. Compacted dirt becomes a network of tunnels and active life, and the system sustains itself continuously, requiring only occasional renewal of buried zones to maintain growth and health. And that's how you can turn lifeless soil into living soil, step by step. If this video helped you understand the underground processes and how to activate them, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future guides on soil, biology, and building resilient growing spaces. If you know someone struggling with compacted or inactive soil, share this video with them. They'll thank you later. And if you want to show extra support, click the thank you button below. Every like, share, and subscription helps us keep bringing practical, proven strategies straight to you. Remember, living soil isn't bought, it's activated. Start today, watch the transformation, and keep feeding the life beneath your feet. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.